Kayla in Year 7 wants to increase her academic success but doesn't know why she's struggling or how to improve. Through this video, we will discuss developmental issues and strategies to assist Kayla. In Kayla's vignette, we have identified 3 main developmental issues affecting Kayla's academic success. These include social, physical, and cognitive development.
Social development is an integral part of adolescence. Kayla is facing a number of issues that negatively impact her social development and may lead to long-term effects. Firstly, Kayla is withdrawn in the classroom and is unwilling to share personal information with her peers. This suggests Kayla is feeling separate from her peers and is struggling to fit in with students her own age. A withdrawn adolescent is internalizing their problems, therefore they have an increased risk of anxiety and depression later in life. Nelson suggests that students with low social involvement among peers are more likely to experience poor academic achievement. Secondly, older friends impact upon Kayla's social development. Her friends have been reprimanded for drugs in the past, and peer pressure and increased exposure can increase the likelihood that Kayla will use drugs. The long-term effects include academic failure, delinquency, STDs, and crime. Thirdly, the limited English of Kayla's parents can create a barrier regarding how involved they are in her education and their relationship with the teachers and school. Although they are supportive, female adolescents aged 15 to 17 see a decrease in parental support and an increase of peer support. Finally, the financial struggle of Kayla's parents means she is from a low SES background. Low SES may cause mental illness from the perception of social status, and that it is associated with financial struggle. Kayla may feel outcast from her peers due to the differences in socioeconomic status.
Kayla is physically more mature than other girls in her year. The effects of early maturation on girls can include decreased self-esteem, depression, and negative body image, as well as delinquent behaviour, substance abuse, eating disorders, and behavioural issues. In 2003 research, Haney discussed the possibility that the link between early maturation and delinquency may be due to the misguided view that girls who mature at a younger age are more adult in nature, and therefore are subjected to more adult expectations. A second reason may be due to females maturing earlier, attracting the attention of older boys who in turn introduce them to habits of substance abuse. We can see in Kayla's case that her early maturation has resulted in an evocative genotype to environment effect, where Kayla's biology has resulted in a response from others in her environment in the form of attention from older, risk-taking students with a history of drug abuse. Through this association with substance abusers, Kayla is at an increased risk of future drug use. Research conducted by Lanza and Collins in 2002 concluded that the risk of substance abuse is increased if the female adolescent matured earlier than her peers. The study also demonstrated that these at-risk females are more likely to progress in this behaviour in more detrimental ways. For example, if the adolescent begins experimenting with smoking, they are more likely to, in future, progress to alcohol consumption and subsequently different forms of drug use.
Due to Kayla's age in Year 7, her cognitive development may still be lacking, though her physical development is more mature. Brain development in cognitive control is developed while the limbic system, which is involved in emotions, motivation, memory, and learning, is more developed over the frontal lobe, which regulates emotions, planning, and impulse control. This can be seen as she often hangs out with older students who are being reprimanded for illicit drug use. With the frontal lobe not fully developed, the risk assessment cannot be fully calculated at this stage of development. Cognitive load should also be taken into consideration, as she states that she often forgets class content and struggles to keep up. Short-term/working memory can only take around 5 to 9 elements of information, while only processing 2 to 4 elements of information. The limits on short-term memory must be taken into account. If she is struggling with classwork, it can lead to disengagement and distance from her peer group. Her operational development level should also be taken into account, as she still may only be at the concrete stage of cognitive development, as seen from her struggling in maths and science class when she used to enjoy them. These classes have a higher requirement in cognitive level, which normally involves a more formal operation skill. The biopsychosocial approach can be applied to Kayla's situation, as her biological factors of early maturation, psychological factors of limited decision-making, and her social factors of distance from a peer group increase the risk of a negative life outcome. This is seen in the developmental cascade effect, where she is struggling at school, distancing her from her peer groups, causing her to seek older students in finding belonging in a social setting. This increases the risk factors, further promoting a negative life outcome. By reducing the risk factors and increasing her protective factors, this reduces the chance of a negative life outcome.
Intervening teaching strategies to deal with Kayla's issue include physical education and activities, group work, and concrete and scaffold learning.
The strategy of promoting physical education and activity can assist Kayla with her developmental issues. The education of Kayla and her peers would help increase the understanding of puberty and female early maturation, and as a result, simultaneously reduce associated negative self-esteem issues and create a safer environment conducive to student learning. Physical activities, both via school programs and weekend sports teams, can assist Kayla's social development by promoting the formation of life skills and the building of peer relationships. In relation to a school context, these positive peer relationships create a collaborative atmosphere, allowing Kayla to devote more concentration on academic work rather than the pressures of peer rejection. In terms of Kayla's cognitive development, research suggests that implementing additional physical activity programs into schools can increase numeracy and literacy results of students and decrease disruptive behaviour. Disadvantages include the increased risk of injury associated with physical activity, the fact that not all students will engage in the chosen activities, the need to carefully consider groups for the optimal supportive atmosphere, and the possibility that parents may not see the importance of weekend sports for mental well-being.
According to Vygotsky, learning is a social process. Students working together can boost listening skills, communication, and empathy. It can increase peer academic and emotional support. Peer praise notes would increase Kayla's social involvement as a withdrawn student and increase her positive relationships with peers. Collaborative and cooperative teaching strategies ensure students work together to monitor their progress as a group. Group work lowers the zone of proximal development, as other students assist Kayla in bridging the gap in her knowledge. As she already knows basic maths and science concepts, Kayla may also learn by teaching these concepts to other students. Group work can also increase engagement and performance as students enjoy working together as opposed to individually. The disadvantages include the teacher must pick students carefully, as not all students will work well with others. This takes careful planning to ensure group work will maximise the learning environment. Additionally, not all students will contribute equally. For Kayla, working in a group may encourage her to become more disengaged with the content if her peers are doing the work for her.
Through the use of Vygotsky's theory that individuals learn in a social context, the teacher needs to develop a scaffold which takes into account Kayla's cognitive level while also helping her progress to the formal operational stage. This is achieved by working in the zone of proximal development. Through the use of guidance by a facilitator, she can develop skills required to understand operations. Kayla shows that she is willing to learn but requires additional guidance. A pedagogical strategy can be used through technology where small groups can further develop the cognitive stage of a student and assist them in progressing to the next stages. This can help Kayla as she is struggling to process maths and science through visualizing the concepts being taught by technology. Since working memory takes more effort, scaffolding content should be taken into account that only 2 to 4 elements of information can be processed at a time. Information should be scaffolded in a way which helps develop the declarative, procedural, and conditional schemas. Extraneous load should be reduced when scaffolding. This can be achieved through the increasing high intrinsic learning material. In Kayla's case, learning material should limit the split attention effect, which information and questions are spatially and temporally separated. Teachers for subjects like maths and science should incorporate concrete examples while still using theoretical methods to slowly help students progress and understand formal operations. To differentiate lessons to incorporate more concrete examples can also increase how long content takes to teach. The use of scaffolding should help guide a student by not marginalizing them, which can create negative effects for the individual, like in Kayla's case.
By addressing the issues from a social, physical, and cognitive perspective, the teaching interventions would have a cascade effect throughout Kayla's life. Teaching strategies discussed in this video increase protective factors and assist Kayla's everyday life experiences, thereby positively affecting her ability to learn. I want to teach to help others, make a difference in my community, and see success in others. A teacher is one of the most influential people in a student's life, and it is important to create safe and supportive learning environments for each child. After this unit, I am aware of the different teaching strategies available and that it's possible to tailor lessons to suit both the students' learning styles and my personal teaching style. This unit reinforced my belief that a teacher does not only teach content, but influences the general well-being of students. My KLA is Business Studies, and I want to encourage students that, although the subject is content-based, it can be enjoyable with the right activities, such as collaborative learning. This assignment helped me to understand the impacts of physical, social, and cognitive development on adolescents. The theories that resonated with me the most were Vygotsky's social constructivism and Piaget's cognitive development. Learning in a social context increases positive social relationships and can assist in decreasing the zone of proximal development. Collaborative and cooperative learning are effective teaching tools that I would use to create an optimal learning environment. The stages from Piaget's theory are more relevant in that not all students are at the same cognitive development stage. This would be important when considering scaffolding for abstract and hypothetical concepts and ensuring that students are not taking on more cognitive load than they can handle. In conclusion, this unit has been beneficial in building on my personal teaching pedagogy. As a teacher, I want to focus on individualizing each student's education in order to create a safe and supportive learning environment for everyone.
My KLA is science, specifically biology and chemistry. I want to teach in order to instill a basic knowledge of the principles and wonder of science in students. I feel the fundamental way to accomplish this is to know the students in the classroom, their current abilities, interests, and how to best optimize their learning. To do this, a teacher must have both a fundamental knowledge of science content and the ability to communicate this content effectively to all students. Science is discovery and the future, and if I can inspire a student to follow that path, I will have succeeded as a teacher. During the course of adolescent development and teaching, I've learned many different aspects of education relating to adolescence. I've learned how the biological, psychological, and social effects of puberty interweave to have an impact on the learning capabilities of adolescents. Most importantly, I've learned how different theories of cognitive development, namely theories of Piaget and Vygotsky, can be implemented in classroom environments to assist adolescents. Science is extremely theoretically based and places a high cognitive load on students. It is therefore necessary to implement methods to create engaging classrooms that promote the development of schemas and long-term memory to lower the cognitive load and lessen students' zone of proximal development. Techniques such as clear links between content, concrete learning methods for abstract concepts, and Vygotskyan recommendations of group work and scaffolding can be particularly useful in science. This assignment in particular has helped me to implement the knowledge I have learned throughout this semester with regards to a specific case likely to be encountered in a school setting.
This subject has shown the importance of cognitive development. This was specifically seen in the short-term memory cognitive load of holding 5 to 9 elements of information while only being able to process 2 to 4 elements. Also, understanding the development of the frontal lobe lagging behind the hippocampus explains the lack of inhibition and risk assessment of adolescence. The working memory cognitive load must be taken into account when designing a lesson plan, as extraneous load is wasteful information. This leads to ineffective teaching practices. To reduce this, I will take into account the 3 main theories of split attention, redundancy, and advanced learner situation. These will be kept in mind when designing teaching resources. Brain development explains the importance of why students also misbehave and not to overreact when these cases occur. In many scenarios, students have alternative issues which may have adverse effects with their schooling. As a teacher, these cases may need to be addressed through intervention strategies which promote positive life outcomes. Through the use of Piaget's theory of cognitive development and Vygotsky's theory of learning in a social and cultural context, not all students will be at the formal operation stage, and differentiating content material is required to cater for a diverse student. In my KLA of Science, concrete examples of molecules and physical activities of element building can be used to relate the context being taught to the real-world examples. Through the use of group activities, peer-assisted learning methods can be used, as this can increase engagement and help students in a social context, allowing further development of social skills which most textbooks cannot teach for the real world.